We are told that a sermon should open with a joke, something funny and lighthearted that will lift the spirits of the congregation and focus their attention on the speaker's brilliant orations. I was going to begin this sermon on the spiritual lessons of the movie Dune, the recently released blockbuster science fiction film series about the struggles of the people living on the desert planet of Arrakis, but I was told that my humor was just too dry, that I needed to water it down a bit, that it might be too gritty for a refined audience such as yourselves. The Dune series of novels written by Frank Herbert has had several attempts at movie adaptation. Most of these have failed, I believe, for primarily two reasons. One, the original Dune books were written mostly in dialogue. And I don't mean the inconsequential coffee and croissant kind of banter. The conversations in the books are paranoid, pointed, cryptic, and laced with meanings. Most popular movies today are about action, people fighting, things blowing up, fantastic scenery, more things blowing up, complex battles, romance, and things blowing up. 2. Film depictions of Dune up to now have tried to fit the plot into the standard archetypal story about a hero who rises from the people and saves them from tyranny and oppression. But that is not what Dune is really about at all. There's a deeper, more intriguing and cautionary tale and lesson embedded within the Dune series, something to which we should pay attention, something profound about humanity, something that is still highly relevant to our lives today. But wait, you might say, today is not about blockbuster movies. It's supposed to be about ordination. And you would be right. This congregation of the Barry Unitarian Universalist Church has chosen to ordain me this very afternoon. They invited me to become a member of the clergy so that I may better serve the needs of this church and of this community. So let's take a moment to talk about ordination, and like many UU sermons, let us begin with a good, dry definition. The word ordination comes from the Latin word ordinare, which literally means to put in order. Traditionally, the idea was that the ordained were people connected through a succession of priests and prophets from the past to the present. More currently, especially in our UU congregations, ordination has become a formal means of recognizing individuals who take on pastoral functions. Though this path has often involved a series of studies, internships, ministerial reviews, and guided discernments, none of these are absolutely required under the independent polity that is the heart of Unitarian Universalism. Though this allows for a great deal of freedom in practice and application for those a congregation may choose to call minister, it also incurs a weighty responsibility upon those congregations. Our tradition has no pope, no bishops, and no deacons. In effect, a congregation collectively takes on the mantle of priesthood so that it may collectively pass the baton of ministry to one they have chosen. Ordination is the blessing of one so that one may bless others. It is a seed of sustenance planted by a congregation. It is the formation of an individual for the transformation of a community. It is the recognition of a calling. What is a calling? In our tradition, we do not believe that you have to be struck down with a bolt of lightning by someone or something from on high. There need not be a burning bush or an angel appearance. We believe a calling is something that emerges from deep within the heart. Although I do think the universe has been sending me spiritual text messages throughout my life concerning this path. When I first announced several years ago to my friends, many of whom are sitting in this room right now, that I wanted to pursue ministry, they responded with a shrug and said, "Of course you are." Evidently, I hadn't been checking my celestial messages. I've always struggled with the idea of a calling, not just because it implies some outside power has to dial your number, but because it also implies that someone who is called is of more importance than others who are not. And I cannot accept that notion. Though ordination may be something that happens to a person, it can never be just about that person. Ordination is not a change in status, it is a change of function. One is ordained for the same reason that pillars are set in temples or pulpits are placed in churches and candles are lit in altars. Such things provide support, offer a place to focus, and instill hope. Ministers are asked to be pastoral, prophetic, and proclamatory so that they may support a community, but it must be kept in mind that they are not the community. Just as a building alone cannot be a church, or the flame of a candle cannot be a prayer. The role of an ordained clergy person, regardless of faith or tradition, should be focused not on personal goals, but on carrying forward the ideals and principles of their tradition in the light of the challenges and conditions of the times. In my case, I have chosen to further the ideals of Unitarian Universalism, yet we, as a relatively young tradition, still struggle on defining our own ideals. In previous sermons here, I have proposed that our Unitarian heritage can serve as our theological principle, while our Universalist heritage can be the foundation of our ethical ambitions. To be a contemporary Unitarian, in my view, is to recognize that all beings are interconnected through one great mystery we call by many names. Similarly, I believe contemporary Universalism is the way in which we respond to this great sacred enigma with three basic guidelines. One, that all people, all beings, inherently deserved respect and dignity. Two, that no one person, tradition, or institution can know the whole truth of this great mystery. And three, that our lives, all our lives, are enhanced and fulfilled when we grow together in love. These are the beacons I hope to follow on my path that you have lit for me. The problem with giving prestige or status or title to any individual is that the power needed to guide or sustain an organization can in itself become intoxicating. If not kept in check by other individuals, or more effectively through some kind of charter, compact, or covenant, one's desire to control and manipulate will grow in the same degree of magnitude as will one's own self-image. As many allegories teach us, the cavern of good intentions can also be the lair of the beast. That is the message of several of the world's great science fiction and fantasy stories. Take, for example, The Lord of the Rings. The One Ring rules them all, but also makes the person wearing that ring become invisible, like a spirit of the dead, a wraith. Furthermore, the possessor of the ring will give up all family ties and relationships in their sole pursuit of power over others. George Lucas was greatly inspired by the stories of Dune. In his series Star Wars, young Anakin Skywalker is on the path to becoming a great Jedi Knight, but begins to believe that his personal needs and objectives are more important, and his view of the world is more accurate than the great Jedi Order to whom he has dedicated his life. His internal focus becomes the avenue for the encroachment of the dark side. The 6 books of Dune have the same message, but it is not an incidental plot line. It is the central focus of the entire series, but only becomes evident after the first novel. Paul Atreides is given great power through which he believes he can liberate the desert people of Arrakis, and claims himself to be both emperor and Messiah, so that he can rule unimpeded. He believes it is the only possible way to effect positive change. In the second book of the series, Paul is asked if there should be a constitution for this new empire. Paul rejects the idea and says, quote, "The Constitution is social power mobilized, and it has no conscience. It can crush the highest and the lowest, removing all dignity and individuality," unquote. But that's the point. A covenant built on the highest ideals cannot succumb to ego, power, or conceit. Paul's ironclad rule and messianic identity becomes the impetus for a holy war where millions are killed or subjugated in his name. The desert people Paul meant to free eventually lose their all-powerful spice they once controlled, as they lose their traditional way of life based on that spice. So, today I am to be ordained, but the ordination is not about me. It is about you, the people who have loved and supported me through this effort. It is about this church and its ideals that we hope to bring forward. It is about this community and the hope we have for its future. It is about promoting space for people to live and think freely. It is about our covenant that we share together as a guide and ideal. Most of all, this ordination is about our need to overcome fear with love. In the name of that which you hold in your heart to be most sacred, may it be so.